Yo, what is up guys? Welcome back to Squad Sprint, and we are here for round number 2 at the German Grand Prix at the Hockenheimring circuit. So as you guys know, round 1 of course at Silverstone was a pretty decent opener. If you haven't seen it, then I'll leave a link up in the top right hand corner. Do check it out because there probably will be some form of spoiler in today's video, but nonetheless, we are here at Germany, round 2 of 8 rounds this season, a 35% race which equates to 19 laps around here, and I am very much looking forward to it. As always with this series, we've got fixed setups of course to give everyone the best possible chance to get a good result, and it's fair for everybody. One stop of course mandatory in here, and also using the soft tyre is a mandatory tyre, so you have to use it at some point during the race. And you can see on the calendar actually, even though a bit of a graphical error, we are at Hockenheim here today. The next race, round 3, is Istanbul, and then round 5 is Circuit de la Sarthe at Le Mans. So some exciting races coming up, and I'm very much looking forward to it. But you can see on Silverstone, we did pick up the race win in the opening race of course, and that is going to affect the starting grid because the grid is set in reverse team championship order. So first of all, we have Niren out front with Arv alongside him, and Nathan Take bringing up the 1, 2, 3 for Quadrant. Then it's Alfa Romeo with Emily Jones in P4, Bob Roman P5, and Simon Weigang in P6. We then look at the Mobius All-Stars team with Alex Gillon P7, Yashish Manohar P8, and then P9 is going to be Louis Delatraz. Yashish out of position for the Yas Heat team, unfortunately, bit of an issue there with the grid making. Tomek Parajic P10 for McLaren Shadow ahead of Ben Daly and Mr. James Baldwin, of course the world's fastest gamer. We've then got Danny Moreno for the first of the Mercedes Esports cars ahead of Bono Huis, or Bono House I believe in Dutch, and then Jano Otmir P15. Then it's Hayden Gullis P16, my teammate, along with Maxime Bowmans in the second Veloce car of course, and then myself behind those in the back of the Veloce team. Then it's Jardy 8 or Jaroslav Honzik P19 and Eamon Murphy P20 for Yas Heat at the back of the grid, and that's where Yashish should have been at the back of the grid, but he's starting from, I believe, P8. So yeah, a bit of an issue, but unfortunately it's just the way it goes. A bit of an issue with the grid creation. But here we are then at the beautiful Hockenheim circuit, all skinned out in the according Veloce sponsors, and we've got 19 laps ahead of us again. Apologies for the graphics on screen not being super accurate, but it's just the way it works with Assetto Corsa and the replay file. But here we go then, we're going to get ready for the start of the race. We are starting on the hard compound tyres, and then we're going to box for some softs later on. So here we go, towards the back of the grid, underway for the race. We don't get a great launch, both Yas Heat cars of Yardier and I believe that is Eamon Murphy getting off to an absolute flyer straight away through turn 1. I'm being very, very cautious here because you just don't know what to expect. Then making our way down towards turn number 2. Again, going to be very patient here, try and set up an exit. You see a lot of cars running off the track and running a bit wide. We're going to get a bit of a cutback here and run side by side with Hayden Gullis, my teammate. So far, all 3 Veloce cars are at the back of course, and that is partly down to the reverse grid order due to the championship positioning. But making our way down towards the hairpin, this is going to be quite tricky. We're going to be very, very cautious here. There could be some contact, and there is contact actually. Multiple cars getting collected here. We're going to go down the inside and pick up a bunch of positions. Slight bit of contact there as well as we tagged someone on our left rear, but we are going to make up a bunch of places, and I think we're like P13 at the moment as one of the Mobius cars runs up the inside and also get dive bombed by a couple other cars. To be fair, I have to run off track to avoid having contact, but that means Alex Gillon goes around the outside and makes a place back on us around there. We've got an Alpha behind us. I believe that might be, I want to say Emily Jones, but I could be wrong, as we head into the stadium section for the first time here in this race. And I'm just going to try and see if I can get past Alex, to be fair, because I think we're P13 at this stage of the race. That's the position I'm in, or P12, one of those two. So we're not far off some points, and you can see I'm already all over the back of the Mobius All-Stars driver, of course, heading down towards turn 1. I thought about the move, but then, you know what, it's only lap 2, it's very early, so we're just going to hand back as one of the Quadrant cars was off the track on the left-hand side. Down towards turn 2 we go though, and I make a big mistake here as I lose the back end. I lock the rears, and we have contact with the Alpha, who I believe actually was Simon Weigang, not Emily Jones. So unfortunately, there's been no from me into turn 2, so I have to let everyone go by. And we're going to drop down to pretty much last place. I believe we're like 18th or something, so not ideal, not the best start to the race. And we now come to like lap 3, I believe, end of lap 3. And we're behind Arrow now, who's got Niren just in front of him. And this is where I got caught into a bit of a Team Quadrant versus TOM97 battle here today. So I had a little decent scrap with Arrow here. He was defending the inside into turn 1. Again, I try to not exploit track limits too much if I can avoid it. Arrow doing a pretty good job of defending here as he tries to keep me behind. We're going to send it down the inside. I didn't have a lot of confidence. The car felt like crap because the contact I had with Simon Weigang gave me damage on the rear of the car and I had a lot of instability. But Arif actually, to my surprise, fighting back and making our way down towards the hairpin here, side by side with the Quadrant driver. He's giving me a good old squeeze here, and who's going to break the latest? It's going to be pretty 50-50 actually, but we go down the inside, get the better line, and make the move. So, admittedly, that move took slightly longer than I would have hoped for, but fair play to Arrow for defending, putting up a fight, and now we've got to get past his teammate. And I'm in a bit of a quadrant sandwich right now as we have to try and get past Niran Yusufu. As you can see, having a bit of a wiggle there, as do I. Niran running off the track there as he's got a bit of instability. And I'm going to try and put some pressure on him, but he goes defensive into the stadium section, trying to see if I can find a way through. We're going to get a great little cutback here. And now to the outside, into the hairpin. It's a bit tight, but Niran holds on. And you can see now I'm in this proper quadrant sandwich here, heading into the final couple of corners. But then eventually Niran makes a bit of a mistake, heads onto the bumpy skating rink, and we're going to make a move and finally get past both of the quadrant cars. And we're now, I believe, about P16 or P15 or something. So, you know, these are the things you didn't see in the broadcast. But, you know, we've got one of the Yas Heat cars there. I believe that was Jardier, Jaroslav Honzik, going for a spin out of turn 1. So another Zbinella here in this race as we move up to P15, I believe now, or P14. So making some progress. Eventually we cut onto a few laps later, and we've got some cars in the pits as well. You know, people who started on the soft tyres started to do their stops, but then me, through turn 1, it's a second Zbinella in this race, and I do the exact same thing as Jardier, who just goes past, and we lose 2 places and about another 10 seconds. So yeah, not ideal. Again, go back to the original, you know, the first spin I had. I locked the rears, got damaged with a Saman Weigang, and that just gave me a lot of instability, and that spin was kind of caused by that, which was a real shame. But you can see here we've got one of the Alphas into the pit lane. I believe that could be Emily Jones. I can't quite tell. So you almost have a third spin in this race, and just generally having an absolute disaster. After winning the first race at Silverstone, we are not putting up any form of a good performance here today at Hockenheim. And you can see now we've got another car in the pit lane there at the end of this lap. I believe we're on lap 9 now, something like that, lap 10 maybe. Quite a few cars in the pits actually this time around. You can see on the minimap there. So we're going to gain a bunch of places, and I think we moved up into the top 10 at this point. P9 maybe, somewhere in that region. I was trying to, you know, set some lap times. My tyres were pretty worn at this stage of the race, but eventually I believe this is lap 13. We do pit for the soft tyres. So of course 19 lap race, we're going to pit lap 13, so a 6 lap stint on softs. We've got our teammate Hayden Goddess there, who unfortunately has had to retire from the race due to an issue with the game. So I'm the only Veloce car left. Maxime had a lot of damage and she had to retire as well. So I'm pulling the team today, and unfortunately I'm way out of the points. I believe I'm P14 or P15 as I rejoin, behind Mr. Ben Daly, Timothy Marduk. So we had a battle with Team Quadrant earlier, and now we're going to go to battle versus Mr. Marmaduke. So let's crack into it then. We're both on soft tyres. Ben pit 1 lap before me, so he's back on the wheel this race as well. He's not fully up to speed yet, but he's going to be a lot quicker than the first race. So here we go then. The battle begins down towards the hairpin, and I feel already had a lot more pace than Ben. He's still kind of getting up to pace with his new wheel, so I had to get by straight away. But I know Ben, you know, content creator pride is at stake here, and he does not want to let me go by. He gives me a nice little squeeze into the Mercedes-Benz grandstand and then pushes me off as well. Very cheeky there from Ben, just you know forcing it to the limit, but fair play. Good defensive driving from him, and I can't fault it. And we're going to have to sit behind for a bit longer heading into the stadium section. Ben taking a really nice line through there, to be fair, and credit to him for that one. And I'm just trying to see if I can force him into a mistake, really. You know, all over the back of him. He'll have his mirror on so he can see I'm right behind him as we go a bit of a lag spike, and Ben does the exact same thing as Niran, runs a bit wide onto the skating rink, and that's going to allow me to go through and pick up another position. So at this stage I think we're like P13 or P14. I'm making some pretty good progress in terms of catching up, but ultimately I was starting to run out of soft tyres. So you can see a couple laps later we had a bit of an issue with Maxime and also one of the Quadrant cars, I believe, both struggling with damage, and they were both a lap down at this stage. No changes to my position though as we head on to the penultimate lap of the race. I think we're P13, and then at that final corner actually Yashish for Yasit goes for a spin out of the penultimate corner, so bit of a mistake from him. So we're now P12 in this race, I think. And we're now going to the last lap of the race, and I tried my hardest. Louis Delatraz, I believe the car in front of us, hit the cliff on tyres, and I was trying so hard to catch up, but unfortunately it just wasn't to be. We're going to end the race P11 and just outside the points, which is a real shame. So yeah, it is where it is. and a real disappointing race after what happened in Silverstone, of course, in round 1, as we go from hero to absolute zero. But anyway, we look at the final results, and James Baldwin picks up the win and the fastest lap. Danny Moreno P2 for Mercedes ahead of Barry Brourmand, making it a P3 for Alpha. So an F1 Esports top 5 there. Top 6 if you include Tomek Paradzic as an F1 kind of academy driver. But the top 5 all F1 Esports drivers here today. Bono Ruiz P4, Yano P5, making it a Mercedes 2-4-5, which is a very strong result for them. Both McLarens, you know, James P1 and Tomek P6 as well. Good strong race from them. And Nathan Tague scoring Quadrant's first points in P7, and then a Simon Weigang scoring for Alpha along with Barry Brourmand, and then Eamon Murphy and Jardier P9 and P10 scoring a couple of points for Yas Heat. So yeah, not a good day in the office. I'm determined to prove that this race was a bit of a fluke and that I'm more like the first race rather than the second one. But anyway, we look at the second half of the table, and I was actually wrong. So Louis Delatraz finishes P11, I finished P12, Yashish 13th ahead of Timet Marduk, and it's Galon P15 ahead of Emily Jones, Arav, Niran, Maxime and Hayden, who both DNF. So both my teammates DNFing here today, which is a bit unfortunate, but it's the way it goes. Hopefully next time we can have a stronger race. I believe in the next one Raggy's taking over from Maxime, so I'm looking forward to see how Raggy does, of course, my teammate from last year, so fingers crossed that he does pretty well. But now we're going to move into the championship standings, and luckily for us, even though we scored a big fat 0 here today, we are still second in the Drivers' Championship. James takes an early lead, 12 points clear at the top from McLaren Shadow, Jon Ottoman up to P3, Barry up to P4, and you got Murphy in P5 there, Moreno as well. So it's pretty close, to be fair, from myself all the way down to Jardier in P8. You know, one race win could flip it for everybody, so it's looking pretty tasty there. So we've got, just to kind of round it up, we've got Baldwin, myself, Otmir, Brourmand, Murphy, Moreno, Huis, Honzik, Weigang and Paradzic rounding out the top 10 for McLaren Shadow. And then in terms of the second half of the table, of course, Nathan Tague scoring Quadrant's first points here today, which is going to be big for him as well. We look at the constructors though, and Mercedes take the lead now. So in one race, we've gone from being the second team in the constructors to the 5th, which is pretty annoying. But yeah, McLaren second place behind Mercedes, then it's Yas Heat in third, Alfa Romeo P4, 1 point ahead of us, and then it's going to be the All-Stars team with Quadrant right behind them. So even though Nathan Tague did get their first points, it's not going to be enough to lift them off the bottom of the table. But it's not all bad news, because now that we're 5th in the Constructors' Championship, in the next race we will start much closer to the front of the grid, so that could be a good thing for us, guys. So hopefully that works out. Of course, the next race is going to be at Istanbul for the Turkish Grand Prix. But anyway, that's going to be it, guys, from me here today for round 2 of the Squad Sprint series. If you guys enjoyed it, then slap a like on it, subscribe for more content like this. Thanks to the members of the channel as always for supporting. I really appreciate it, and check out the 2 videos on screen right now. But guys, that is it from me here today, and I'll see you next time. But until then, take care, and it's goodbye from me.